When we think of promotion, most of us imagine reward. In the natural, a promotion at work means more pay, more benefits, maybe a nicer office or more recognition. And while that's true in the corporate world, spiritual promotion works differently. When God promotes you spiritually, He doesn't simply hand you privileges, He entrusts you with responsibility. It's not just about receiving more, it's about carrying more. And this can surprise us, because in the natural we look for the perks. But in the spiritual, God looks for faithfulness. Promotion in His kingdom is not about status, it's about stewardship. Think about Jesus' parable of the talents. The servant who was faithful with 5 talents didn't just get a pat on the back, he was given more to manage. The reward for good stewardship was not relaxation but responsibility. That is a key principle of God's kingdom. When He promotes you, He gives you more to carry, more influence, more opportunities, more authority, but also more weight. And here's the paradox. If you're being promoted by God, your life doesn't always look easier. In fact, it often looks harder. People who don't understand may even question whether you're blessed because they confuse blessing with comfort. But blessing, in God's economy, is often the ability to shoulder responsibility for His purposes. Philosophically, this makes sense. In every area of life, growth brings weight. A child wants the privileges of adulthood, but adulthood is marked by responsibility. A student longs for graduation, but the degree doesn't mean less work, it means the opportunity to contribute more. In the same way, spiritual promotion is God trusting you with more of His kingdom work. And the weight of that trust is a greater compliment than any privilege. Psychologically, responsibility also shapes maturity. When someone is entrusted with a new role, they either rise to it or shrink back. God knows this, which is why He promotes us into responsibility. The added weight develops resilience, character, and wisdom that privilege alone never could. If all you ever receive from God are privileges without responsibilities, you would stay shallow. But when He entrusts you with more, even when it feels heavy, He is cultivating depth in you. This is why spiritual promotion can be surprising. It doesn't always look like what we expected. Sometimes it looks like being asked to lead when you'd rather follow quietly. Sometimes it looks like people depending on your prayers when you still feel weak yourself. Sometimes it looks like carrying burdens for others, interceding for your family, standing firm in a community where compromise has become normal. You might think, why me, why this weight? But the very fact that God entrusted you with it means He has promoted you. He would not place it on your shoulders if He had not already prepared you to bear it. And let me press this further, with greater responsibility also comes greater accountability. Promotion in God's kingdom means your choices affect more people, your obedience carries more influence, and your faithfulness sets the tone for others. This is why James wrote, "Not many of you should presume to be teachers, because you will be judged more strictly." He wasn't discouraging leadership, he was underscoring the weight of responsibility that comes with spiritual promotion. It's not just about being visible, it's about being answerable. Now, some of you may have noticed this shift in your own life. Maybe you've found yourself burdened for things you never used to think about. Perhaps where you once only prayed for yourself, now you feel compelled to intercede for your family, your city, even nations. That's responsibility. Or maybe where you once avoided leadership, people now look to you for guidance. That's responsibility. Or perhaps God has placed in your heart a vision, an assignment that feels far bigger than your current capacity. That's not punishment, it's promotion. Because spiritual promotion always stretches you beyond your comfort zone into God's strength zone. Let's be honest, most of us would prefer privilege without responsibility. We want influence without weight, blessing without burden. But that's not how God works. Even Jesus himself, when exalted, carried responsibility. Philippians says he humbled himself, taking on the form of a servant, and because of that humility, God highly exalted him. But notice, his exaltation didn't remove responsibility. As the exalted Christ, he now intercedes for us continually. His promotion expanded his responsibility to become the mediator for all humanity. If the Son of God was promoted into responsibility, why would we expect anything different? And here's something important. The weight of responsibility is not meant to crush you, but to push you deeper into God's presence. When he promotes you, he doesn't expect you to carry it in your own strength. He invites you into partnership with his Spirit, teaching you dependence at a higher level. What once felt optional, prayer, scripture, reliance on his presence, now becomes non-negotiable because the responsibility is too great to bear without him. That dependence is itself a sign of promotion because it means God trusts you enough to stretch you beyond yourself. So how do you know if you've been promoted? Don't just look for doors that opened or blessings you received. Look at the responsibilities God has entrusted to you. Are you carrying more weight than before? Are you being called to deeper faithfulness? Are others looking to you for guidance? Do you feel the Spirit stirring you to take on assignments you never imagined? If so, don't resent it, recognize it. That weight is not a burden to destroy you. It is a sign that God has elevated you. Closing statement: the truest measure of spiritual promotion is not privilege but responsibility. If God has trusted you with more to carry, if he has stretched your shoulders to bear weight you once thought impossible, don't despise it. Embrace it. Because in his kingdom, responsibility is the highest honor, and your willingness to carry it is the clearest sign that he has promoted you. One of the surest signs of spiritual promotion is that life doesn't get easier. It actually gets harder. And that might sound strange at first. If God has promoted you, if he's elevated you to a new level of spiritual authority and responsibility, why would he allow you to face more opposition, not less? But this is one of the great paradoxes of the spiritual life. With every promotion comes a new level of testing. With every step up there is resistance, and with every new dimension of influence there is a corresponding pushback that seeks to undermine your progress. We see this pattern throughout Scripture. When David was anointed king as a boy, the Spirit of God rested on him in a new way. That was his promotion, but right after that the opposition began. Saul, who once loved him, turned against him. David found himself hunted, betrayed, and exiled, even though God had already declared him king. Why? Because spiritual promotion is not just about a title or a declaration. It is about proving and refining the character necessary to sustain the new level of responsibility. The testing wasn't meant to disqualify David. It was meant to shape him into the kind of man who could carry the throne with humility and strength. This same principle applies to us. When God promotes you spiritually, the very next thing you should expect is opposition. It might come in the form of spiritual warfare, new temptations, new attacks, new distractions. It might come in the form of people, friends who misunderstand you, colleagues who resist you, even family members who question your direction. It might even come from within, your own doubts, fears, and insecurities rising up louder than ever before. That opposition is not proof that God has abandoned you, it is evidence that he has elevated you. Philosophically, this makes sense when you think about growth. Every new level of development brings its own set of challenges. A child learning to walk stumbles more than when he crawled. A student pursuing higher education faces harder exams than in elementary school. Growth always invites greater testing, and in the spiritual realm the same principle holds true. God cannot allow you to occupy a new level of authority without equipping you to withstand the pressure that comes with it. And the only way to build that resilience is through testing. Psychologically, opposition also plays a vital role in transformation. Resistance strengthens us. Just as muscles only grow when they are pushed against resistance, the soul grows stronger when it confronts opposition. If you've ever lifted weights, you know that resistance feels painful in the moment, but it produces growth in the long run. In the same way, spiritual promotion will draw new resistance, but that resistance is shaping you into the kind of person who can handle the level you've been promoted to. Now, this is where many people misinterpret their situation. They think, if I'm facing this much opposition, maybe I did something wrong, maybe I'm out of God's will, but often the opposite is true. The enemy doesn't waste resources on someone who poses no threat. He resists those who are moving forward. When you feel the opposition intensify, don't automatically assume you've missed it. It might be the clearest evidence that you're right where you're supposed to be. Consider Jesus. At his baptism the heavens opened and the Father's voice declared, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." That was divine promotion, public affirmation of his identity and mission. And what happened immediately after? The Spirit led him into the wilderness to be tested by the devil. Notice, the testing didn't come before the affirmation. It came after. The opposition was not a sign of failure, it was a sign of promotion. And Jesus emerged from that wilderness not weaker, but stronger, ready to begin his public ministry with power. This shows us something profound. Testing is not punishment, it is preparation. Opposition is not evidence of God's absence, it is proof of his trust. He allows the pressure because he knows you can handle it with his strength. He allows the resistance because it will solidify your foundation. Without opposition, promotion would be unsustainable, but with it, you become unshakable. Now, let's be clear, opposition doesn't always feel spiritual. Sometimes it looks like workplace drama, strained relationships, or financial struggles. Sometimes it's simply the weight of discouragement pressing in. But behind the scenes, these are often the very arenas where God is refining you. He uses natural circumstances to do supernatural work in your character. Every trial is an opportunity to deepen your faith, to strengthen your resolve, to clarify your priorities. And when you respond to opposition with trust instead of fear, with perseverance instead of quitting, you demonstrate that you are ready for the next level. Let me also say this: spiritual promotion doesn't mean immunity from attack. It means authority in the midst of it. God doesn't promise you won't face resistance. He promises that no weapon formed against you will prosper. He doesn't say weapons won't form. He says they won't succeed. The fact that they are forming is a sign you've been promoted. The fact that they can't prosper is proof that you're protected. So when you feel the heat rise, don't interpret it as abandonment. Interpret it as advancement. When the attacks intensify, don't shrink back, lean in. Recognize that you are being tested not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to carry the next assignment. The opposition is confirmation of your promotion. Closing statement: the weight of opposition is not meant to break you but to build you. If you are facing greater resistance than ever before, don't misread it as failure. It is a sign that God has elevated you. Opposition always meets promotion, but those who endure it prove themselves ready to walk fully in the new level of authority God has entrusted to them. When God promotes you spiritually, it never stops with you. Promotion always comes with a new weight, a new mantle, a new level of responsibility. And if you've been walking with God for any amount of time, you'll notice that He never elevates a person just for their own benefit. Promotion is always tied to purpose. He increases your influence so that you can impact more people, carry more weight, and shoulder more responsibility in His kingdom. This is why spiritual promotion can often feel heavier rather than lighter. Many people think that when God promotes them, life should suddenly get easier, doors should fly open effortlessly, and everything should be smooth sailing. But the truth is, with greater authority comes greater accountability. The higher God lifts you, the more he expects you to serve, to give, and to lead. Spiritual promotion is not a reward for comfort. It is an assignment for stewardship. Think about Joseph in the Old Testament. When Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream and was elevated to second in command over Egypt, it wasn't just about Joseph's vindication. It wasn't just about him moving from the prison to the palace. That promotion carried with it the responsibility to save millions of lives during a devastating famine. God didn't promote Joseph so he could enjoy a bigger house or a nicer robe. He promoted Joseph because Joseph was now ready to carry the weight of preserving a nation. That's how God works. Promotion always enlarges your assignment. Now, let's take a moment to think psychologically about why this is necessary. Responsibility is what matures us. When God gives you more responsibility, he's actually giving you more opportunity to grow into the person he created you to be. Responsibility forces us out of ourselves. It challenges our selfishness. It stretches our capacity to think beyond our own needs, and in doing so, it aligns us more closely with the character of Christ, who carried the greatest responsibility of all, the salvation of the world. So, when you find that God has entrusted you with more, whether it's people looking up to you, greater influence in your workplace, more opportunities to serve in your community, or simply more weight in your own family, it's a sign that he's promoted you. He's saying, you've been faithful with little, now I can trust you with more. But here's the catch, more always costs more. Spiritual promotion demands greater sacrifice. That sacrifice might come in the form of time. You can no longer live for yourself because others are depending on you. It might come in the form of energy. You'll be stretched beyond what feels comfortable. It might even come in the form of criticism, because when your influence grows, so does the scrutiny. But if God has entrusted you with it, he has also equipped you for it. Here's where we often see the tension. Many people pray for God to enlarge their territory, to expand their influence, to bless them with more, but they don't realize that the blessing comes wrapped in responsibility. You can't ask for the palace without being willing to steward the famine. You can't ask for the platform without being willing to carry the people who stand on it with you. Promotion is not a stage, it's a stewardship. Philosophically, this ties to the principle of servant leadership. In God's kingdom, greatness is not measured by how many people serve you, but by how many people you serve. Jesus said, "The greatest among you will be your servant." That turns worldly promotion on its head. In the world, promotion means climbing to the top so others can support you. In God's kingdom, promotion means going higher so you can lift others with you. So if you find yourself carrying more responsibility than ever before, that's not punishment. It's evidence of promotion. Let's also address something that often goes unspoken. Responsibility reveals identity. When God gives you more responsibility, it is his way of affirming that he sees you as capable, trustworthy, and ready for the next level. Responsibility is not a burden meant to crush you. It's a compliment from heaven. God does not entrust weight to those he knows will waste it. If you're carrying more than before, it's because he believes you can handle it, not in your own strength, but through his grace. Look at Moses. When God promoted him to lead Israel out of Egypt, it wasn't a glamorous job. It was heavy. He had to deal with complaints, rebellion, and discouragement on a daily basis, but that responsibility confirmed his promotion. God wasn't punishing Moses, he was partnering with him, and in the process Moses' character deepened, his relationship with God grew more intimate, and his influence shaped the destiny of an entire people. This is what happens when God promotes you. The scope of your influence expands, the weight of your responsibility increases, and your dependence on Him deepens. Promotion is not about escaping responsibility, it is about embracing it. And in embracing it, you step into your true calling. Now, let's make this practical. If you suddenly find people seeking your counsel more than before, if you find yourself leading when you didn't plan to, if you notice that your words carry more weight than they used to, don't shrug that off. That's a sign of spiritual promotion. God has entrusted you with influence. Don't run from it. Steward it well. It may be inconvenient at times, it may feel heavy at times, but remember, this is what you were made for. The greatest danger is to confuse responsibility with punishment. Too many people view the weight they're carrying as evidence that God has abandoned them, when in fact it's the opposite. He has entrusted them. The promotion is in the responsibility, the influence is in the assignment. Closing statement: if you find yourself carrying more than you ever have before, don't despise it. See it for what it is: spiritual promotion. The weight you feel is not there to crush you, it's there to confirm you. God trusts you with more because He has already placed within you what it takes to handle more. And when you embrace that responsibility with faith and humility, you'll find that the promotion was not just for you. It was for everyone your life was meant to touch. One of the clearest indicators that God has promoted you spiritually is not external at all, it's internal. It's a heightened awareness, a sharper sensitivity to His presence, and this is something no one else can measure for you. It's not about applause, titles, or positions. It's about what happens in the stillness of your soul. When you've been promoted spiritually, things that you used to overlook suddenly matter. Conversations you would have once ignored now weigh heavy. Environments that you used to tolerate suddenly feel disruptive. Your spirit becomes fine, tuned to God in ways it wasn't before. This is not about emotionalism. It's not about being hypersensitive to every sound or every thought. It's about living with an inner compass that is so aligned with God's Spirit that even subtle nudges become loud. You begin to notice His leading in the smallest details. A word of Scripture will jump off the page and stop you in your tracks. A sermon you've heard 100 times before suddenly pierces your heart with new power. You'll be in a conversation, and while others hear words, you discern motives. While others just see faces, you perceive burdens. That's what happens when your spirit grows more sensitive to His presence. You start seeing beyond the surface. Why is this important? Because spiritual promotion is not about what you can accomplish in your own strength, but how much you can cooperate with God, and you cannot cooperate with Him if you're not aware of Him. Sensitivity is the foundation of obedience. If you're not tuned in, you'll miss His direction, but when your awareness is sharp, even His whispers feel like shouts. Think of Samuel as a child. When God first spoke to him in the night, he didn't even recognize it was the Lord. He thought it was Eli calling him. But as he grew in sensitivity, Samuel became a prophet whose words never fell to the ground. That's the progression of spiritual promotion. You move from confusion to clarity, from hearing vaguely to discerning precisely. The more God promotes you, the more He sharpens your inner ear, and here's where this becomes both a gift and a challenge. With greater sensitivity comes greater responsibility. When you're spiritually promoted, you can't just do what you used to do and feel fine about it. Things that once didn't bother you now disturb you deeply. A joke you would have laughed at now grieves your spirit. A relationship you tolerated now feels heavy with misalignment. That's not legalism, that's discernment. That's God maturing your conscience so you can walk closer with Him. Philosophically, this can feel unsettling. The more sensitive you become, the less normal you feel. You don't fit into environments you used to blend in with. You notice undercurrents of pride, selfishness, or dishonesty that others overlook, and if you're not careful, you might think something is wrong with you, but no, something is right with you. Spiritual sensitivity is a mark of maturity, not weakness. It means your spirit is being trained for deeper partnership with God. Psychologically, we might compare this to the development of emotional intelligence. Just as emotionally intelligent people pick up on subtle cues others miss, spiritually promoted people perceive God's activity in ways others don't. They notice the still, small voice while others wait for thunder and lightning. They sense the shift in atmosphere before anyone else does. That awareness is not an accident. It's a skill God develops in those he trusts with more. But let's be honest, greater sensitivity also means greater tension. You'll feel the weight of things others ignore. You'll be burdened for people who don't even see their own need. You'll wrestle with convictions others dismiss. And in those moments, you may be tempted to mute your sensitivity so you can fit in. Don't. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's your strength. It's proof of your promotion. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. While his disciples fell asleep, he was awake, deeply aware of the spiritual weight pressing in on him. He felt the sorrow, the anguish, the gravity of the moment while they were numb to it. That's what sensitivity looks like. It awakens you to reality while others are asleep, and it equips you to carry what God has entrusted to you. Now, let's make this practical. If you find yourself becoming more uncomfortable in environments that don't honor God, pay attention. If you find your spirit stirring when someone misuses Scripture, or when compromise is normalized, that's not you being judgmental, that's you being sensitive. If you find yourself moved to tears during worship in ways you never were before, or convicted by a word you used to shrug off, that's not coincidence, that's promotion. God is sharpening your discernment because he wants to use you more effectively. And this sensitivity doesn't just protect you, it protects others. When you're tuned into God's presence, you can help guide those around you. You become a voice of clarity in their confusion, a source of peace in their chaos. Your heightened awareness is not for your benefit alone. It's so you can carry others with you into God's presence. But here's the caution. Sensitivity must be matched with humility. If your awareness makes you arrogant, you've missed the point. Spiritual promotion doesn't make you superior, it makes you more accountable. The goal is not to boast that you hear God more clearly than others. The goal is to be a servant who responds quickly, obeys faithfully, and loves deeply. The truth is, sensitivity is one of the most intimate signs of God's promotion. It's his way of drawing you closer, of saying, I trust you enough to whisper because I know you'll listen. That intimacy is the true reward of promotion. Influence may be the byproduct, but intimacy is the prize. Closing statement. If you've noticed your spirit becoming more sensitive, if things others overlook now stir something deep within you, don't dismiss it. That's not a burden, that's a blessing. It's God's way of saying, I've promoted you. I trust you with my whispers. Cherish that sensitivity, protect it, and let it guide you. Because in the end, your awareness of his presence is the greatest sign of all that he is moving you into a higher place.